Okay, so you're here because you want to know what's going on with the NBA playoffs.
Yeah.
But you don't want to have to read every single article and box score and stuff. So
Right.
we are here to help you out. This is like an express lane
Yes.
to understanding what is going on in the 2025 playoffs.
Yeah,
As of March 29th,
that's right.
we are locked in.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, looking at the standings and all the results so far, one thing's for sure, both conferences are super intense right now.
Yeah?
It is really tight. Every game is super important.
Yeah, every game matters at this point,
Yeah.
especially for the teams on the bubble. So let's start off in the West. Lakers picked up a big win
They did.
against the Grizzlies. And that puts them at the 4 seed.
Yep.
But they're only a game and a half behind the Nuggets for that 3 seed.
Right.
So home court advantage is looking real for them.
Yeah.
What do you make of this recent surge for the Lakers?
Well, what's interesting is, watching the Lakers over the last couple of weeks, and they're really starting to play some good defense. They're really coming together, and that's helped them win some games.
Yeah.
That's been a huge factor in their recent surge, and it puts a lot of pressure on Denver,
Yeah.
who's sitting in that 3 seed, and it kind of puts the Grizzlies in a little bit of a vulnerable spot.
Yeah.
Even though they're still at 5, the Clippers are only a game and a half back at 6.
Mhm.
So, we could be looking at a potential 3-6 matchup.
Oh, man, that would be a great series.
Right. That'd be fun to watch.
That'd be a great series. And speaking of teams making moves, the Mavericks,
Yeah, how about the Mavs?
they beat the Bulls the other night. They are in the 9 seed right now. They jumped the Kings to razor-thin margin. Half game.
Half game.
Unbelievable.
I mean, it feels like those play-in spots out west are constantly going to be changing.
What do you think about the Mavericks and their recent play?
Well, they have been red hot lately. They are playing really, really well offensively.
Yeah.
And that's a big reason why they're, in the 9 spot right now. And the Kings, on the other hand, they lost to the Magic.
Yep.
And they're now down to 10. And I think teams are starting to figure out the Kings' offense a little bit. Their defense has been a little bit shaky at times.
Yeah.
And it just goes to show you how quickly things can change in the NBA. They're only a game ahead of the Suns at 11. So the Kings cannot afford to make any more mistakes.
Yeah. Every game is so crucial right now.
It really is.
For these teams. And look at the West right now. It's so tight.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Amazing.
I mean, we only have a few games left, and
That's right.
standings could look way different next week.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, only one team has clinched a playoff spot in the West.
I know.
The Thunder. That's insane.
It is crazy to think about, this late in the season. Only one team's locked in their spot. That's how competitive the West has been this year.
Let's switch gears.
Okay.
Let's go over to the East. Celtics clinched the Atlantic Division title
Yeah.
with a win over the Spurs. They're in the 2 seed right now.
Yep.
And they've closed the gap with the Cavs for the top seed.
Yeah.
Only 4 games back. So could we see the Celtics make a push for the 1 seed?
I wouldn't count them out. They have played really well on both ends of the court all season.
Yeah.
They've been very consistent, and they have a lot of experience, winning big games. And it's interesting, if you compare the conferences, the East already has 3 teams that have clinched playoff berths.
Mm-hmm.
The Cavs, the Celtics, and the Knicks.
Right.
So it seems like the East is a little bit more stable at the top, but those battles for playoff positioning below those top 3 teams, they're just as intense as they are in the West.
Yeah.
It's just as exciting.
I mean, look at the Pacers. They lost to the Thunder. They're holding on to the 4 seed.
Right.
But their lead over the Pistons is down to 1 game.
Yeah, that's a big game coming up between those 2 teams.
That's a big game.
That could really shake things up in the East.
And then you have the Magic.
Mm-hmm.
They beat the Kings, and now they're in the 7th seed.
Yep.
Ahead of the Hawks.
Yeah, by just a percentage point.
A percentage point.
It's unbelievable.
That is crazy.
It's crazy how close it is. Every game, every possession can make a difference.
And then you have the play-in race in the East,
Right.
which is coming down to the wire as well.
Yeah.
The Bulls lost to the Mavericks, but they're hanging on to that 9 seed.
They are, thanks to their tiebreaker over the Heat.
Yeah, so for those listeners who don't know, a tiebreaker is most of the time based on head-to-head record.
Yeah, exactly. Head-to-head record during the regular season, that can decide who gets a playoff spot or a play-in spot.
Yeah, it's important.
It's really important.
And even though the Heat beat the 76ers, they're still at 10. because of that same tiebreaker situation.
Yeah, it's amazing how those regular season games can come back to haunt you, or help you.
Yeah.
It's really interesting.
So it's the same takeaway. Both conferences,
Yeah,
tight races.
absolutely.
I mean, we're seeing teams fighting for those guaranteed playoff spots,
Yeah.
those play-in spots.
Yeah.
Nothing's locked in.
Nope. The East is a great mix of teams trying to, solidify their positions,
Yeah.
and then others that are just fighting like crazy to get into the postseason.
So, okay, let's take a look at the standings after March 29th.
Okay.
If the playoffs started today, what would the first-round matchups look like?
Okay. So in the West, number 1 seed, the Oklahoma City Thunder, they would face the winner of the play-in tournament.
Okay.
Number 2 seed, the Houston Rockets, would also be taking on a play-in winner.
Okay.
Then we'd have a really good matchup, a 3-6 matchup between the Denver Nuggets and the LA Clippers, and then rounding out the West. The 4-5 matchup would be the Lakers and the Grizzlies.
Man, that would be a tough series.
Oh, absolutely.
There's just some great potential matchups there.
Yeah.
What about the East? How about the East?
Okay, so in the East, the number 1 seed, Cleveland Cavaliers, they would be playing a play-in winner.
Yeah.
The number 2 seed, the Celtics, would also be facing a play-in winner.
Okay.
Then you'd have a really interesting series between the 3 seed New York Knicks and the 6 seed Milwaukee Bucks.
Okay.
And finally, the 4-5 matchup in the East, the Indiana Pacers versus the Detroit Pistons. That would be a really good one.
Now remember, guys, this is just a snapshot.
Yeah, that's right.
Of where things stand right now.
Exactly.
If the season ended on March 29th,
yeah,
these matchups could change.
They could definitely change.
Nothing is set in stone.
Right. There's still a lot of games to be played.
Yeah.
A lot of basketball left.
Let's take a look at the play-in tournament picture itself.
Okay.
So in the West,
yeah,
you'd have the 7 seed Warriors taking on the 8 seed Timberwolves.
That is going to be a fun one.
That is a lot of talent.
Yeah.
A lot of experience on the court.
Yeah, you got some guys who've been there before, in the playoffs.
And then you have the Mavericks.
Mm-hmm.
The 9 seed Mavericks.
Yep.
Taking on the 10 seed Kings.
That is a must-win game for both of those teams.
It's do or die at that point.
Absolutely.
What do you think about those Western Conference play-in games?
I mean, you've got teams that have won championships.
Yeah.
Battling it out to get into the playoffs. It's going to be awesome.
And then over in the East,
okay,
you have the 7 seed Magic taking on the 8 seed Hawks.
That's a really intriguing matchup. You've got the young, up-and-coming Magic going up against the more experienced Hawks.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see who comes out on top there.
And then the 9-10 matchup in the East.
Yep.
You have the Bulls taking on the Heat.
Oh, that's going to be a battle. Those two teams always play each other tough.
Yeah, those two teams do not like each other.
No, there's a lot of history there. It's going to be a great game.
So for you listeners out there, who do you think is going to come out of those play-in tournaments?
Yeah, it's a great question.
I mean, it's single elimination.
Right. One game, and you're done.
You got to bring it.
Yeah. Which teams can handle that pressure?
Yeah.
Which teams are going to be playing their best basketball at the right time?
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be fun to watch.
Okay, so some key dates for you guys to mark down on your calendars.
Okay.
So the play-in tournament is going to be from April 15th to April 18th.
That's right.
And then the first round of the playoffs is going to tip off on April 19th.
So it's a quick turnaround for the play-in teams. They got to be ready to go.
And then for those of you who are looking ahead to the finals, the finals are going to start on June 5th.
Okay.
So you have a timeline now for the entire postseason.
It's all coming up quickly. Teams got to make their moves now. If they want to improve their seeding or avoid the play-in altogether, that extra rest can be huge before the playoffs start.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Yeah. So let's talk about the teams that have already clinched.
Okay.
So in the West, it's only the Thunder.
That's right. Just the Thunder.
That is crazy.
I know. It just shows you how competitive the West has been. You know, to have only one team clinch a playoff spot with this many games left, it's unheard of.
And then in the East, you have the Cavs, Celtics, and Knicks.
Yep. Those three teams have been the most consistent in the East all year.
Yeah.
They deserve to be in the playoffs.
And then, unfortunately, we have to talk about the teams that have been eliminated.
Right. Yeah.
So in the West, you have the Jazz and the Pelicans.
Yeah. Their seasons are over.
Their seasons are over.
And for them, it's time to start thinking about next year.
Yeah.
You know, what can we do to improve? Who should we draft? What moves can we make in the offseason?
And then in the East, you have the Wizards, Hornets, Nets, and the 76ers.
Yep. Tough year for those teams.
Yeah, tough year for those teams. But, they'll learn from it.
Yeah, they'll come back stronger next year.
So as we wrap up this deep dive,
Okay.
I think it's pretty clear the playoff races in both conferences are super tight.
Oh, yeah.
It's exciting. I mean, we're seeing teams battle for every single seed.
It's awesome.
Every game matters.
Yeah, the standings are so fluid right now.
Yeah.
After the games on March 29th, things got even more interesting. Every game from here on out is going to be huge.
So my final thought for you guys is,
Okay.
what matchup are you most excited to see?
Yeah, good question.
Whether it's in the first round or the play-in tournament.
Right. There are so many possibilities.
What storyline has you captivated?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be an amazing finish to the season.
Yeah. Make sure you keep following all the action.
Absolutely.
Because it's only going to get more exciting from here.
That's right. It's going to be wild.
Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
And we'll see you next time.